the Nurburgring, the Blancpain GT Series round 9, but most importantly this weekend, round 5, the final round of the Endurance Cup. And as you can see, it's not easy to see, John Watson, as we look out around the circuit. A little bit of rain last night and fog hanging in the Eiffel Forest this morning, going to keep the drivers right on their toes. Plenty of visibility at track level, but as you can see, a higher up camera angle, a lot of hanging cloud.
Well, I was going to say good morning to a beautiful morning here at Nurburgring. For some, this is beautiful, but 12.8 Celsius, 13.4 on the racetrack, and an utter and total contrast to what we had yesterday evening when we had the pre-qualifying practice. And of course, the kind of lap times that we saw then, well, there's a pup's chance and you know where of anybody getting near that as one of the vehicles that actually is an extremely effective track sweeper. And notably, the place on the circuit that was most affected was up through the S's, the right-hand part of the S's. It was horrendous, the amount of debris, rubbish, rubber on the racetrack. So that's all been swept away. The racetrack is somewhere there. I mean, spot the ball as well if you can.
Well, these are the people who are playing for the big prize of all, the McLaren, the Garage 59 crew. Shane van Gisbergen, Rob Bell and Komi Ledegaard. Their car, number 58, comes to the Nürburgring with a decent points lead, but who knows what can happen. They didn't have good form yesterday. And then Maxime Soulet, Andy Soucek, Wolfgang Reip, the Bentley crew tucked in behind. Philippe Eng, Alexander Sims, Maxime Martin not here this weekend, but they come here to Nürburgring with their tails up after that fantastic, almost flawless victory in the Spa 24 Hours. And the HTP Mercedes crew also can get in the mix. Yasemin Jafar, Dominic Baumann, Maxi Buch showed good form yesterday in the first of the 2 practice sessions, but these are the 4 crews that can tilt for the Endurance Cup title this weekend at the Nürburgring.
Yes, of course, Shane van Gisbergen not here this weekend. He's back in Australia and Sandown taking part in his Super V8 Championship.
Moving on down, Lawrence Van Tor, frequently a champion, in 6th place this year, the title for the Endurance Cup at least, being closest to the control tower. And Baz Linders trying to look and find the speed. It seemed to be missing yesterday.
Yeah, they really feel that they've lost straight line performance. They picked up a little bit of time and they put on fresh tyres, but essentially they're sort of on the back foot. And it's the number 8 Bentley, and in particular Wolfgang Reip, who, should Bentley win the Euro end of this Blancpain GT Series Endurance Championship, then Wolfgang Reip would be the first driver in the history of the championship to win back-to-back world titles, and that would be last year with Nissan, and Nissan this year not again particularly strong, but in the Bentley he is hoping, and of course Bentley have had their travails so far this weekend. There is the replacement car, and Bruce, you might want to give us some insight into what's gone on.
You shouldn't. Well, even better news, there is Stephen Kane in the background. Yesterday in practice, Stephen had a problem, we believe, with a new brake pads or whatever, but he went straight on at turn 1, had to be taken off for medical investment, and we cannot tell you that. But the good news is Stephen is back. He had a slight tweak to his neck. The car, not so good. Front end, very heavy damage, and a spare one had to be brought up from Barcelona, where it had been tested. Got here last night, all things being equal. There it was in the...
There you can see the it's gotten worse as we've been just literally the last 5 minutes. Cloud has descended even further, so looking across from our commentary position to the pit lane, which was relatively clear, it's now much worse. There is that shiny Bentley. Now the only issue I have to ask is, does that Bentley have a different engine to the number 7 Bentley that was destroyed, or have they managed to take the engine from the 7, put it into this chassis? Because if you change engines by regulation, you are automatically sent to the back of the grid. But if they could have fitted that engine from the original number 7 chassis, whatever the times that would have been established, well, those times would have stood. So, it would mean the times he records this morning in the number 7 car would be the position he would start at and not have to be relegated to the back of the grid.
Well, come what way may, we know those M Sport mechanics will be very tired going into the race. They've already done their part. Looking down the pit lane, the cars look bright and colourful, but sadly the sky is far from that. Great to see these high up shots. Just gives you a scope of weather conditions not exactly unusual here. Very similar to Spa-Francorchamps. You can often have a damp and misty morning.
Yeah, and I think here last year we had a similar session. This time of year, you're going to get a lot of moisture in the air, condensation, and of course then fog as well. But we've had 2 pretty lovely days. Friday was outstanding. Yesterday wasn't quite as bright and brilliant, but it was certainly a dry day, and on any dry day, Nurburgring is always a bonus. As we look down, Giovanni Berton.
That's the Ombre Racing Lamborghini. Good colour scheme on that. But Nat, this is the sort of moment where the drivers just want to get out there and get on. They've got it into their heads. It's misty. And we've just had message, 10-minute delay because of visibility. So we'll be starting at 8:40, not 8:30. 2 Bentleys, one, of course, the 30 from Team Parker Racing. Only 2 drivers this weekend, Derek Pearce, team boss, and Chris Harris. Chris Cooper not here to play.
Yes, and yesterday in the practice session, not the pre-qualifying session, suddenly we had masses of fluid liquids on the circuit. There was the oil from that Bentley, but it was from their oil tank. And it's not the first time I think there's been a problem with an oil tank on a Bentley, because if I remember, maybe back at Silverstone, Maxime Soulet had a similar problem. I'm not quite sure where it was in the event, whether it was over the weekend in practice qualifying or the race, but certainly that was what occurred yesterday. And look, we're looking up the pit straight, up the main straight to the pit lane exit, and it's just vanishing as we speak.
Well, it's good.
So this thing, fog, whatever we want to call it, in the pit lane, be inappropriate to send drivers out, and the criteria is essentially if you can't see between the marshalling posts anywhere around the circuit, then you can't run.
Interesting, looking into the eyes through the helmet of Christian Kelders. There's a certain amount of tension. He's got a lot of responsibilities on his shoulders to be the first of that trio to go out on the circuit for Sancelot Racing in their really great looking Audi. But we're going to find out what's happening down in the pit lane. So let's go down to the Bentley pit, because Dakota has caught up with Vincent Abril from the number 7.
Vince, now we saw you guys have a major crash yesterday. Stephen's back in the car this morning, so I'm guessing everything's okay.
Yeah, Stephen is okay, thankfully. It was a big one, so the main thing, he was okay after the crash. The team did a great job to replace the car. So now, obviously, we're going to start from last because we had to change the car, but yeah, we're ready to go, and at least now we can fight from the back, do something, hopefully high as possible.
So is this a whole new car, or does it have the engine from the old car?
No, I think from what I know, it has the engine from the old car. So the guys stayed up late last night to do the change, and yeah, we're ready for the race.
Wow, well, let's see what you can do. Good luck.
Thanks.
Interesting interview there, John, because Vincent is normally bouncing on the balls of his feet, full of enthusiasm, but it's as though he did the engine change last night. He looks totally deflated. He's pointed out the number 7 car, not in full livery, clearly. In the background, we'll have to start from the back of the grid. Nurburgring, lovely flowing piece of tarmac, but not the easiest circuit on which to do overtaking.
No, it's not. I mean, the back of the grid is a long way behind. You're going back almost 20 rows, no, back 30 rows here. So you'll be virtually coming out of the final turn when, well, in fact, in the case of a rolling start, you'll probably not even be in the final turn.
54th and final
so
position.
So it's a long, long way back, and while it's a 3-hour race, the first hour, when you start that far back, is tortuous, because just making your way through the traffic that you would naturally be ahead of on overall pace, it's difficult. This is one of the most difficult circuits in the calendar to make overtakes. One place you can do it is down into turn 1, but it's a very easily defended part of the racetrack. And the other fact is that actually the straight line performance of all the cars is so equal that if you can't get your momentum to get that slingshot, you just get caught behind and you just sit there, wait, and
then the field stretches out.
Well, you may even have to wait until the first round of pit stop before you can really do anything substantial.
And also, as we look at the Jaguars, good to see 2 on board this weekend. 114, different driver on board this weekend. We've got Norbert Siedler, who's come in to join the show. That's Jonathan Hershey, and the 3rd driver, Christian Klein.
Yeah. Now, we were discussing the colour. There's Marc Bassin, looking a little bit pensive as well. Discussing the Jaguar blue, and in fact the colours of all the cars, and some work better on television, some don't. Apparently this is royal blue.
Well, you thought it wasn't quite royal blue, but we'll call it royal blue. If that's what they call it, we'll call it that.
I think it's going to be royal blue. So anyway, Aldo Costa looks and has a little chat with some of the teams as the camera walks.
I mean, clearly
the pit lane.
Clearly ahead of qualifying. there'll be an element of nerves, but this morning you can really sense it down in the pit lane. No one's quite sure what the track is going to offer. And as you said, it was covered in debris after all the races. And that one should go like a truck, as we pointed out, with Scania on the front.
I think that's wonderful. I mean, an Audi has got the name of a truck company in the front. As we look at one of the two Nissans, which I have to say that's the 22 car of Sean Walkinshaw.
Well, there is Sean.
And Sean actually standing by, chatting to one of his co-drivers.
Well, we're going to come up very shortly with an interview down in the pit lane with Will Stevens. He's down with Dakota, and he'll tell us what's happening with the 28 Audi crew.
Will, now you might have not had the best day yesterday. How are you guys going to improve on it this morning?
Yeah, I mean, yesterday wasn't bad. We were 11, so we know we got room to improve, but obviously today looks a little bit different with the conditions, so we're looking forward to it. I think we'll be pretty strong in the wet. We know the car behaves well in them conditions, so it's a bit more of a lottery this morning, but hopefully we can come out on top and then head into the race.
Now, you've driven on this track many times before, so I'm sure you have a lot of experience. How is the Audi feeling on this particular track?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty good. Obviously, in Sprint Series here, we had a pretty strong result, so we know the car works pretty well here. So, yeah, we know it pretty well. Yesterday, we got through what we needed to, and we're actually pretty confident with the package we got, so we'll see what happens later on. But I think at the moment, we're going to got quali coming up. We know we can put it near the front, so let's wait and see.
Well, good luck. Thank you.
Well, certainly nice, positive attitude from Will Stevens. That
Guardedly optimistic, I think we call that.
It's better to be that way than saying, oh, you know, we don't like the wet, or the car doesn't work in the wet, or we haven't got the right wet weather tyres, but everybody's got the same wet weather tyres, whatever.
He also knows, of course, he's not going out first to get the worst of conditions. Conor De Filippi, promising American racer, is the driver I just spotted, strapped in there. ISR, Philippe Salacada did a great job in that yesterday, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, this car, it's been in the top three off and on really pretty much throughout the weekend. And of course, it all varies on who does what and which tyre and who's got the freshest set of tyres at any particular given point. As we move further down the pit lane to the black Falcon Mercedes. And
that was one of the ones that stood out yesterday.
The sister car beside it, that was Adam Christodoulou, but Mauro Engel in this car with Oliver Morley, going out first. He's got the unenviable task of doing the initial run, but it was the sister car driven by Adam Christodoulou, Hoop in the wheel, or behind the wheel right now. So the Mercedes, all very competitive. Ironically, the car that normally we expect to see up there, the 84 car, was well behind. I mean,
it was way down. It was second. It was second fastest in the first session, and then it got to pre-qualifying, and it was. We had to look to the second page of our timing screen.
The sister car, the 85 car of Clement Schmidt, Luciano Barchetta, and Indy Donji, that ended up seventh quickest. 0.67. The thing was the quickest time set by Mirko Bortolotti in the Lamborghini set a new benchmark, and at one point he was nearly half a second quicker than the entire field, and it was only bit by bit that other teams chipped a tenth here, a fraction there. That is the car, the 16 car with Mirko Bortolotti. There's Mirko in the center of the picture. Did, I mean, just an outrageously quick time, 1 minute 55.022. Set early in the session, obviously on a brand new set of tyres, but just got the Lamborghini really hooked up, and it sat there in that quickest time for well over an hour till the checkered flag fell.
All the other drivers were trading in tenths and hundredths. He was 4 tenths quickest. This Zach Speed Mercedes has come into the championship for this race. Luca Ludwig, Sebastian Asch, and Nikolai Rogivu, and the first two race together, know each other very well. And this was our favourite car yesterday, John, because it stands out, and in the fog, even more so.
Yes, so it's just the combination of the colours, the base white with the blue and the red from the backers of the car. But it just, on track, it just looks right. And I've often believed if something looks right, it normally is right.
Certainly easy to understand that, but we've just been talking about Mirko Bortolotti. Has a smile on his face. Fastest yesterday, Rolfin Eichenby going out. He's with Dakota.
Mirko, you set the quickest time yesterday. You're going to be able to keep up that pace today?
Well, let's see if the qualifying starts first, because at the moment it's really foggy. You can't even see the PT exit, so let's see what happens. I mean, obviously we all hope that we can do the qualifying, and I think the pace was pretty good yesterday. Pretty confident for today, but first of all we have to check what the weather does.
Now tell me a little bit what it's like to drive the Lamborghini.
Well, it's a good car to drive. As I always said, it's a car that I would describe as an all-rounder. We can be pretty competitive almost every track we go. So it's good fun to drive, and I always enjoy it. So yeah, this track also is really special. We like to be here again this year for this final race of the Blancpain Endurance Series, and let's see what we can do.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
And just to reiterate, in case I confuse you, it's Rolf Eichen who's going out in the car, but certainly the driver who set the time,
Yes.
as we were discussing yesterday, was the man we just heard from, Mirko Bortolotti.
Yeah. And I mean, it was just interesting listening to Mirko, how well trained drivers today are, because he ticked every box that a driver is required to. In an interview, got all the right things in, said it clearly, concisely. But he's right. I mean, he's up on the pit lane. This is down at the apex of turn one. It's actually marginally improved. At one point, the exit of the corner was almost invisible. It's picking up, and the cloud just passes through, or the fog as such is just coming and going. And at the minute, we've still got this 10-minute delay. Whether that's going to be revised,
Well,
it's questionable. I think we're
6 minutes into it.
I don't think in the next 4 minutes it's going to suddenly get so much better that everybody can get out on track.
We were talking earlier about the 84 Mercedes. It was second fastest in the morning practice session and then tumbled down, and the sister car, 85, was the quicker of the two.
I mean, I
It looks
think,
quite bright in the morning in the lights.
Yes, I think
Looks grey livery.
that is a wonderful colour scheme. I have to say, not a million miles from my helmet colours. My silver was a little bit of a lighter. It was a Mercedes base colour, a little bit lighter. They used to call it brilliant silver, of an anthracite, but it just the fluorescence makes it sort of jump out at you, and it makes it an easily identifiable car when you're looking at a shot, a long camera shot, maybe 2 or 3 cars close together. But for some reason, the 84 car just didn't really seem to get it hooked up, and for one reason, I mean, 34th out of the 54 cars is way off the pace. Now, of course, what they did yesterday was probably do a lot of preparation for the event today, but the preparation was in dry weather. We've now got a wet track, we've got fog. It's a new ballpark.
Of course, every team has one particularly important member, particularly at circuits like the Nurburgring, and that is their weatherman or weatherwoman. And while yesterday started sunny and had broken cloud through the day, today was always expected to have a drop of rain. It's a question of when it comes, and you never know. Some of the teams might have been setting up their cars a bit more with the balance for what was coming today. Certainly what we do hope is coming today is a little bit more visibility as we line up ahead of an hour of qualifying for the Blancpain GT Series. Of course, this is the 5th and final round of the Endurance Cup, and it's all to play for. Busy down in the pit lane, HTP Motorsport. We've just been looking at their car. Let's go and hear from Dominic Baumann down with Dakota.
Dominic, you're 13 points behind. Can you catch up?
I hope so. So we will see now with the qualifying. It's not so easy. I hope we can drive. If not, if they cancel it, we have to start from the back, from the pre-qualifying position. But it looks good now. Engines are running, and yeah, I hope we can make the points up. But we will see it in the race. Hopefully, it's dry. It's a bit easier for us. And but I'm quite sure we can at least do some points, but I don't know if we can do all of them.
Well, good luck for this afternoon and this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, just one thing, I was there in the final pit garage. When it comes to pit stops in a 3-hour race, it can get very crowded in the pit lane. Quite a wide pit lane at the Nurburgring, but that's one small advantage, being the final garage.
Yeah,
you can get your out really cleanly.
I always feel that where you're involved in pit stops in endurance racing, I like to be the last garage. In other words, you're the first car that when you leave your box, you're almost accelerating up to the 50 kilometers per hour by the time you get to the line, and then thereafter it's flat out. Whereas everybody who's much further down the pit lane, they get the benefit of stopping earlier, of course, but it's always that sense of the interminable drive down the pit lane. You still got to do it if you're the last box or the first box, but always, for some reason, I think just psychologically, the fact that you can accelerate out of your box if you're the last one in the pit lane and you're up to speed instantly.
One less worry, that's
Yep.
for sure. Oman Racing Team Aston Martin, that went well. Yes, they got up into the top 10, didn't end up there. It moved down the order a little bit, but we saw that go very well at Monza at the start of the season. It's fighting a lone battle. It's an aged car, but...
yeah, but it's such a good car over a longer event. It may no longer be quite the car that would be winning sprint events, but it's such a good car for all three drivers over the 3-hour race. Of course, pit stops play such a major part in all this. Dominic Baumann was saying, look, we think things are improving, maybe some engines getting fired up. The concern I would have, so it sounds like a slight revision.
Well, there's a message on screen. Q1 is cancelled. We'll start Q2 at 8:52, we're being told. It'll be updated all the time. So they're just having, this is a case for the rule makers to sit on top of the rules and operate. They have to build these things into the system.
I mean, there's a lot of complexity in regulations and how those are then executed. And because of the weather conditions, Dominic Baumann was saying, look, we think it's getting slightly better, some engines getting fired up. But it's not to say that it won't get worse, because what we've got is a never-changing cloud base, a low cloud base over the circuit. And it might clear up for 5 minutes. It's not to say it's going to disappear forever. So that's always the downside of having a qualifying session at this time of year at Nurburgring. Remember, it's just over 600 meters altitude, just under 2,000 feet. So we're up in that sort of low cloud base, and we've got lots of forest around us as well, which tends to act as a sponge. It's very much like Spa-Francorchamps, which held a 6-hour classic event yesterday. Lawrence Van Thor looking pensive. He's been looking pensive a lot more. I mean, I know he's a very calm persona, but and I mentioned this to him in Budapest for the sprint round we had there 3 weeks ago, and he is feeling, I think, within the team, the younger talent coming along, and his position, which was pretty much the
nailed
number
on
one driver, as Frank Pereira, who is in the Pro-Am Audi and has been, again, one of those drivers who's been doing an outstanding job.
Different sort of pressure, because of course he's the star driver in the ISR team now, along with...
Look, oh sorry, what am I looking at?
I don't know, what are you looking at, John?
I don't know, I think I'm looking...
It's blowing out. That's pit exit. That is pit exit. You can just make out the white line, the pit exit line.
But that's deteriorated again in the last 5 minutes.
John, look out of our window. It's now hard to pick out the cars. We're across from the pits. It's so what it's like at various points of the track. But let's find out. We looked at the brooding Lawrence Van Thor, and Dakota has braved him, and she's going down to find out how he's feeling.
Lawrence, now are you feeling this weekend?
Well, I hope we will go and do qualifying, because yesterday in pre-qualifying we had a bit of bad luck with traffic. We're only P20, so we need to go up a bit. Yeah, it's typical Nurburgring situation, fog in the morning. Doesn't really look to go away, but I hope we can go out and fight for a good position.
Well, as it stands at the moment, qualifying 2 is meant to happen, so hopefully the weather will clear up. But what is this tense pace for?
No, just it's a different situation. There's some people saying that, some people are saying that, and you're trying to be updated about what's going on. It's just different, so it's always a bit more stressful. But as long as we can go on and do at least Q3, I'm happy.
Well, just relax and come here what you've done to do. So good luck.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, at the minute, I'm just wondering whether Q2 will be delayed because the conditions are moving again and it's getting slightly poorer. I would have said, Bruce, what do I know about weather? Except I grew up in Ireland, so I've probably got a fair good idea. But there you get an indication, some of the coniferous. But actually, looking up at the top of the circuit, this is probably about the highest part of the circuit outside of the pit lane. It's not bad, but that's the view leading up through that very quick SS. So Q2 will be on time at 8:52. Now that's
7 minutes away.
In 7 minutes, it could lift and be much, much better, or it could just hover or lower and be a lot worse.
But it was very interesting when Lawrence was being interviewed there. You could see people running around in the background. I think it was Dries, his brother, came up, put his helmet on the car, and you see all the drivers are getting out. The ones who are already strapped in, whole new process, and they're having to. The second driver's having to get strapped into the car, get helmeted, get ready. And that adds a certain pressure. And I think Lawrence, he's not an elder statesman, but within Team WRT, he's not on the front page of the championship positions, and that is an alien position for Lawrence Van Thor. Up top, though, but not with the quickest car this weekend by far, is the Garage 59 McLaren crew. We saw Rob Bell, a driver normally with a smile planted firmly on his face, looking very pensive indeed.
Yeah, they're not really anywhere near the pace, and are going to have to do a lot of very good work, strategy-wise, pit stop-wise, and managing traffic primarily. But the difficulty they're going to face is how do they get through the traffic?
But there we've got 4 crews gunning for the title and the drivers' points. We've got a McLaren crew, the 8 Bentley crew, Soule, Soucek, Wright. Then we've got the BMW boys, Eng and Sims, really in there pitching this weekend. And likewise, Yazam and Jafar, Baumann and Book flying the flag for Mercedes. Then you go to the next screen and you get Lawrence Van Tor as the top of the Audi drivers. But what we've got is people at the top not with the car performing as well as they'd like. You'd have to say the Bentley crew looks very strong, but in terms of running a race, as we saw at the Spa 24 Hours, Rowe Racing and BMW, they held it together best for the day and night enduro.
Yes, I mean, they just ran without problem. They didn't make any mistakes. Their pit stops were absolutely, textbook pit stops, and that's how they won the race. So are we waiting for yet a further update? Parc Fermé regulations for all cars presently. So it's in effect a live racetrack. There is the 58 McLaren, the car that leads the championship, minus Shane van Gisbergen, who's been racing in Sandown just outside Melbourne.
Very handy replacement. Obviously, Duncan Tappy has been brought on, and he knows these McLarens incredibly well, has been racing them for years as a development driver. And he's got to slot in and see how it all shakes out for him. But for all the teams, it's just this period in limbo. They'll have got into the circuit very early, hoping that the cloud would lift. It hasn't lifted, it's lowered.
I mean, if worst comes to the worst, they'll end up having to take the practice times from pre-qualifying. And that will be the grid, which should be a very, very interesting grid, because a lot of car driver pairings are well and truly out of position, notably the 84 Mercedes-Benz.
And the 99 BMW. Right, Kessel Racing, though, going great guns. Michał Broniszewski has been brilliant in the number 11 Ferrari this season, and they're looking pretty well placed in that in the Pro-Am category. And in fact, only the ISR Audi can overhaul it, which is the Joke Hassid and Franck Pereira number 74 car. So it's just a 2-car battle in Pro-Am, but you'd say it would be unfair if it didn't go to Broniszewski, because he has been really good this season.
So there are the positions.
You see there's a big old gap back, 84 to 74. That's a difficult gap to breach anyhow, but those behind Jonathan Adam, the Ahmad Al-Hati and Devon Modell and the Oman Racing Team Aston Martin, good for them up in third, but there's no way they can recoup.
But the thing that's also
difference.
important is that each category, whoever is the pole sitter in each category, be it Pro-Am or Am, there is a point for that. So it's not just simply doing the best and qualifying. You want to be the best of your category, because there's 1 point available to you.
Exactly so, and this could be a point that's getting dropped out of the window. And you can see how many people have been competing in the Pro-Am class, because we need to go through many pages on the championship positions to get to the people who've just scored 1 point. Right now, the 1 point for pole position is possibly fanciful for the majority of the drivers here at the Nurburgring. 622 metres, didn't we reckon, above sea level, and that is one of the problems here this weekend, because obviously we've got the forest, we've got the rain. Well, not rain, it's sort of mist this morning around this 3-sector circuit. 15 corners, 5.137 kilometres.
15 corners, actually there's probably more, because sometimes some
corners have 2 parts.
There are parts of the circuit which are more like a curve, which sometimes are included as a corner, but for this particular event we're calling it 15 corners, 5.137 kilometres around at 600 and something metres altitude, just under 2,000 feet.
Right, we've got more activity in the pit lane. Let's go down to the Kessel number 11 Ferrari and hear from Andrea Rizzoli.
Yeah, I mean, today will be very difficult, because the weather condition is very, very hard, and we will see. I mean, our competitors, car number 74, is very strong, but we will be there.
Well, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
It's interesting that you've sort of Rizzola slightly acknowledging that Frank Pereira, who is the pro driver in that Audi number 74, and he's capable of putting that car up to the front of the grid in qualifying, which gives an enormous advantage to the 74 car in relation to the Ferrari, which we're now looking at. And in difficult conditions, be it wet going dry or being it just with a low cloud base or whatever, you don't really want to give your principal competitor, albeit 10 points behind you, an advantage of scoring 1 point for the position, the pole position within that category, and then being able to maybe dominate from the front. So it's very good for that 74 Audi, the ISR car, but you're going to see that Broniszewski Ferrari is going to be on their toes.
Oh, we expected this news. We didn't want it, but Q2 has now, we're just being told, has been cancelled. Still waiting for Mr. Visibility to arrive in the morning, and it is actually lifting slightly.
Yes.
I am an optimist. We can now see the colours on the cars across the pit lane as we look from our commentary position on the outside of the circuit.
I mean, I was going to say clearly it has improved, which was maybe slightly
Yes.
punish. No, it has lifted. I mean, literally, looking from where we are directly across, we can see the garage 59, McLaren's, and you know the visibility. It's like your eye visibility has been hazy, and all of a sudden, but the camera lenses, these modern camera lenses, are so incredible that they can see through all this.
Right, let's head down for another interview in the pit lane. Leading the AM class is Liam Talbot, down with Dakota.
So Liam, Kissel are doing really well right now. You guys are leading the AM by 11 points. How are you feeling today?
Yeah, really good. We've got a healthy lead, and we're looking good, but the weather's not so good. But I think we're in with a good shot, because if they cancel this session, then we go on pre-quali results. So we're pretty strong there.
So are you feeling confident for this afternoon?
It's hard to know. It's a long race with a lot of variables with all these cars, and everyone likes making contact with one another, so we just need to keep it safe and not do anything risky, and hopefully we get a good result at the end of the day.
So is this a good track for the Ferrari?
Yeah, definitely. It's amazing for the Ferrari. We've had no problems with the car. It's just been tuning it up, and it's just getting faster and faster. So our confidence is really high, and yeah, we just need to take no risk. That's the main thing.
Well, then you always have no excuse to bring the win home.
We'll see.
Thank you.
Fingers crossed.
Good luck.
Thank you.
So there's Liam Talbot piling pressure on himself with his expectations. But if we do go to the situation where we have to take the grid positions from pre-qualifying, just looking at those top 4 cars in the overall class, we've got the best place of them was 17th yesterday, which is the number 8 Bentley. The number 99 BMW will start 23rd. I'm just looking ahead of myself. The championship leading McLaren, number 58, will start 28th on the 54 car grid. And Jasmine Jafar, Baumann and Book, they will start 34th. So you could say they've been tossed back into the middle of the order, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Q2, we know for now, well, for good, is cancelled. Will Q3 go ahead? You know what, if I lean and look out the window, John, I can see the end of the pit lane.
It has picked up, and it's cleared whatever, if there's a little bit of wind, there is some wind, it has blown it through. Just interesting, isn't it, Liam Talbot saying that they were happy with the performance yesterday. They're actually down in 46th if you take the pre-qualifying performances from yesterday evening. So if that was to be where they would be starting, they're going to be, I mean, there's the 888 Ferrari that Liam Talbot will be behind the wheel of. That's not exactly where I'd want to be.
No, but it's 5th.
Okay, 11 points.
5th in the AM class.
Yes, but you know, it's the problem here at Nurburgring is always the first half hour with so many cars on track. How much, look, it's cleared up almost magically.
Yeah, no, that has been a comprehensive movement in the space of about 2 or 3 minutes, pretty much since the start of that interview. There is Liam Talbot's point lead, along with Marco Zanettini and Vadim Gitlin for Kessel Racing. 88 points, plays 67, so that really is a tidy advantage. But Pierre Ere changed drivers alongside him this season. He's on his own in 2nd place. Then the crew from ACA ASP, Jean-Luc Bobelic, Maurice Ritchie and Gilles Vannelet, who actually likes these conditions, or so he tries to convince people. And then finally ARC Bratislava. They are the other crew with a tilt at the title in the 69 Lamborghini. Miro Konopka, Andrei Lewandowski and Theodor Muskowski. So 4 crews can take a tilt at that AM title here in the Endurance Cup. The 5th and final round of that, but of course round 9 out of 10 of the entire Blancpain GT series. And even the background in the shot with the championship positions over it, you can see at various points the visibility is definitely on the up.
Well, it's just literally coming and going, because in fact now looking across to the McLarens, it's dropped down again. I mean, 2 minutes ago it was clear as gin, and now it's just crept back, and it's just being blown sort of diagonally across the racetrack. And whether they will have to decide to abandon qualifying altogether and just revert to the pre-qualifying results from yesterday evening, which, as I mentioned earlier, is going to make a very interesting grid. And certainly for the Lamborghini number 16 and for the Ferrari, the number 50 Ferrari, Pier Alessandro Guidi, those two cars are in happy days.
Absolutely happy days. Just a glance down to the garage 59 crew. Look, let's have a look down the pit lane, riding on the Segway with amazing Mike Hawkins. We just saw him capturing Baz Line, just looking at the rule books on trying to work out what's going on up at garage 59. We're now partway down the pit lane and the car's starting to stand out a bit more light coming through, but as we've seen, it can go up and come down in the space for a handful of minutes. The two Jaguars this season should be the last time we see those. Emil Fry Racing will be back with a new shape of Jaguar, or new to them, next season. The Nissans, they've been there or thereabout. We saw very early on Sean Walkinshaw went second in one of the practice sessions yesterday, but in that, Frank Pereira walks out to say hi to the camera, but it was a case of who was on new rubber at the early stage of the session. Moving on down, the Zach Speed Mercedes new on board in this livery, this model this weekend. The attempt to Lamborghini's livery won't stand out too much if it stays foggy, but once the sun comes out, that brilliant blue will light its way up.
I think that the concern I would have for the race director is if he decides to let everybody suddenly go because there's a window in this fog bank that's over the racetrack, they may have to red flag it again because it needs to be clear, consistently clear for maybe 10 minutes before you really want to let the cars go.
And he needs a report not just from what he can see in the pit lane, he has to have a report what's happening at various points around the circuit. Plenty of topography change, and certainly down the lowest point on the circuit is the Dunlop hairpin, which is the far point on this 5.137 kilometre circuit, and often the visibility can be very different between one and the other. There are the ACA ASP Mercedes. Of course, they would have checked their air guns intensely, but the newest car this weekend is the number 7 in plain white, not liveried up, flown in, delivered from Barcelona last night after Stephen Kane had that accident down into turn 1. Stephen's been checked over, so it means that Guy Smith and Vincent Abril will not have to do this race as a two-driver lineup. So it's good to hear that Stephen Kane has got the medical all clear in the Team WRT Audis, and the number 1 almost always in a different livery, and another new one this weekend. That's Dries Lawrence Van Tor and Frederick Vervish. And then we come to Mercedes land, Black Falcon trio, the 888 Ferrari. There's the Kessel Racing Ferrari, number 11, leading the Pro-Am class. And the fastest car yesterday, the 16 Lamborghini, so going very well in the hands of Mirko Bortolotti. And the last two crews, Oman Racing Team and HDP Motorsport. They've drawn the garage closest to pit exit, and looking out from pit exit, can't see that giant grandstand as we look ahead. You normally can see it should be straight down the track ahead of you, that big grandstand that overlooks the Mercedes arena, but for now we can only just make out the lower deck of it, but you can see the track. With this level of visibility here, I'd say it's good enough, but you look down at the hairpin.
Nothing.
Is that the hairpin? Who knows?
I don't know. I haven't got a clue. I mean, 4 minutes ago it looked like send them. Now there's no way, and I suspect that the race director is really having to make a decision very quickly to say that qualifying has been abandoned, but revert to pre-qualifying times from Saturday, and that will be the grid.
Well, let's hear from a driver who loves Spa. You know why? Because he won it. Alexander Sims with Dakota.
Alex, now you may not have done quite as well as you wanted to yesterday, but can you repeat your joys that you had in Spa?
I think our race pace is possibly stronger than our single lap pace, so depending on what happens in qualifying, we'll remain positive and see how we can go forward in the race.
So you were going to drive qualifying 2, but now that's been cancelled, so who's driving on the qualifying 3?
So Nicky will do Q3 if it happens. Obviously the fog with the weather is putting a spanner in the mix, but we'll see if that runs. I think we can rely on Nicky to do a pretty sensible job if Q3 does run.
Well, we like to keep our drivers safe, so thank you very much.
Absolutely, thanks.
So Nicky Gatzberg brought into the team this weekend, taking over from Maxime Martin, who was there to score that famous win that had eluded him for so long. And it's a family tradition that the Martin family need to win the Spa 24 Hours. So Nicky Gatzberg, the Dutch racer, brought on board. You can see Maxi Bouk sitting on board, waiting for Q3. Will it start in the 84 HTP Motorsport Mercedes? As you can see, waiting for the final minute to bring those wheels out of the garage. Fresh set of tyres. Philippe Eng just watching and waiting. He's not an HCB Motorsport driver, but it's good to have friends up and down the pit lane. I think he's having a chat with Dominic Baumann there, who is obviously in the Mercedes camp. But the pressure's off them because they know their turn to go out and brave the track, John, in the fog has passed.
Yes, and of course they're not going to get any experience at all of track conditions should they remain fundamentally as they are now when we get to this event starting at 2:45 in the afternoon. Now, the most likely situation is that track conditions will improve. There are other events that will be taking place over the course of this morning and into the early part of the afternoon, and that will contribute to track conditions improving. But it's the cloud base that's the current problem, and as the sun basically rises, it should start to burn this off. But you know, it is always optimistic at Nurburgring at this time of year to believe that you're not going to have fog and that track conditions are going to be open and available to everybody to go out and do their qualifying.
Yeah, well, don't forget we've got a full race programme. After this, Formula Renault Northern European Cup, that's due to start at 9:45, and the knock-on. Then after that, it's thick and fast. We've got the Blancpain, Super Trofeo, Lamborghini Series, and the Seat Leon Euro Cup. Hopefully, all of them will get out and have a race, but you can see the knockback effect already starting.
Yes, and again, you're hearing from our weather meteorologist back at SRO headquarters saying that there isn't any sun being forecast. It's going to, in other words, it is going to be an overcast day. So the prospect of this getting burned off quickly rather than, as it's probably going to be, at a more leisurely pace. You know, everybody's standing around second guessing, what are we going to do, what's going to happen. You pointed out Baz Linder's got the rule book out, and that's part of the job. This is when team managers earn their money, because it's understanding that rule book and knowing where. I mean, it's not so much to take advantage of the rules, but understanding and making sure that nobody else tries to take an advantage. So it's all about management right now. The drivers are just almost the puppets. They'll be get in the car, go out and drive. So
yes, it's interesting looking down there. You see the team managers in various clusters. We saw Row Racing, the BMW camp, all the mechanics coming around the team boss, just trying to be 100% sure what happens now. In fact, it almost gives the time for the M Sport crew to livery that number 7 Bentley, get it in the full Bentley livery.
For the number 7 Bentley, it's a car that was done in Barcelona. I think they were doing a PR exercise down there, doing VIP passenger rides or something. So the car fundamentally will be set up identically to the car that was damaged in yesterday morning's session. But the drivers will not have driven it. And the drivers always believe that when they get a spare car or a replacement car, it never feels just quite the same way. So they're not going to find that out until one of them out of the three gets out and does a run. I don't know which of the three they would put in. Personally, I'd put Stephen Kane in, because he was the last driver in that number 7 Bentley before it had its accident, and I would like Stephen to go into it, if for no other reason, just to get him back. It's a bit like falling off your bicycle as a kid. You're sitting there blubbing your eyes out, and your mum or your dad says, get back on that now and go on, because it's the best thing to do.
Well, in fact, when we
you can't do that today because it's politically incorrect. The little darlings might be damaged for life.
John, you can, trust me. Oh, damn. Now, but interestingly, we saw Stephen Kane, he was the driver getting ready for Q1. He's obviously now lost that slot.
Yes.
And he can't have the slot for Q3.
Q3.
So
Indeed.
he's now got those hours to wonder about it until the start of the race. Now, let's go down to one of the new faces in the championship this weekend, Luca Ludwig, the Zach Speed Mercedes, and he's been caught up with by Dakota.
Luca, this is your first time racing in the Mercedes this year in Blancpain. It's lovely to see a new face. You're looking strong yesterday. Can you keep that pace up today?
Yeah, we are delighted to participate here in the Blancpain. Incredible field, incredible performance, and great to be here in the typical Eifel. And our team chef Peter Zakowski urgently wants to win. So we try to keep it up and try to be in front. Yesterday, P5 was really good, stronger than the other Mercedes. So we try to do it today as well.
So you were telling me you wanted to be the best Mercedes out there. You've had a lot of experience on the track. How do you think you're going to achieve that?
I mean, we are the current champion in the ADAC, in the ADAC Masters in Germany, and this series is also very high weighted, and I think it's as good as the Blancpain. So I hope we can be in front at the end of the day.
Well, good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Lucas said high weighted. He means high rated. It's because the weight relates to BOP, and he wasn't referring to a BOP in his case, but referring to the rating of the Blancpain GT Championship, which is considered to be the highest level of GT racing anywhere in the world. But Bruce, we said yesterday on air that, or I maybe alluded to, that 91 Mercedes just looks so good, and something about it caught my, and I said, that's my, and just, you know, a go on a gut feeling. And sometimes, you know, the old gut, you know, it plays up, but other times it gives you good signals.
And you know, viewers, John isn't making that up. He said that as soon as we saw the car emerge. It took a while until the cameras picked it up, and suddenly there it was. We both thought, that's good. The question mark is the third driver.
Yes.
Nikolai Rogiviu hasn't got the experience.
No.
And of course, if you're Luca Ludwig coming here, there is nothing your father, Klaus Ludwig, cannot tell you about the weather here. He tells you what to expect. He raced for so many years here in the Eifel.
Now, looking around the racetrack, we're getting, I mean, the camera, you know, it does amazing things to be able to see through some of this fog and whatever. As Alex Buncombe now, he thinks he might be going out, but actually at the pit lane, at the start-finish line, it's deteriorated again. So
it's such a hard call.
I think the prospect of seeing qualifying this morning is diminishing.
Well,
it's now just coming up to about 6-7 minutes past 9.
You're not alone there, John. Looking at Alex Buncombe's face.
Yeah.
Quite excited about going out. Then he looks down, turns, looks down to pit
Deteriorating.
exit. He cannot see pit exit.
No.
I can't see pit exit. 10 minutes ago, I could from our commentary position on the start-finish straight. But the drivers and the crews have to go through all the motions to be ready to grasp. If it's only a handful of minutes out on the track, could go out and be incredibly quick fire.
Well,
will it? We'll find out.
I mean, this session was due to run from 8:30 until 9:30. It's now 9:07, so we've got the best part of 23 minutes remaining, of which 20 minutes would be, or just under 20 minutes would be for this final session. So it's coming down to crunch time for race director to decide, am I going to take a risk and let everybody go, and in that maybe 1 or 2 minute or 3 minute period, somebody might get a time which could be pole position. And some would say, well, is that fair, or is it more fair just to say conditions are so changeable and they're changing so rapidly, should we just abandon qualifying altogether and then get back on schedule for all the other activities that we've got here today, and then worry about those going through their particular time slots, and just let's have a grid based on what we saw from yesterday's pre-qualifying session.
And I think that
says a lot to me.
Well, it's a story in its own picture, isn't it? Down the bottom of the track, not so bad. Michael Schumacher races, great bit of track. But the first practice session was actually more of the quicker cars, the established cars were at the top end. The pre-qualifying practice yesterday afternoon, it really was jumbled. And as I said, the highest place of our 4 championship challengers was 17th in yesterday's pre-qualifying session. It was a case of holding back, trying not to go through too many sets of tyres. It excites me, frankly.
Well, absolutely. I was just going to say it's going to be a very difficult race for TV to follow, because while you tend to follow what's going on at the front, actually, what you need to be thinking about is where are the three, and to look in the pro category principally, where are the 3 principal challengers to keep them up, to pick up to where they are.
Well, let's find out what's happening down in the Jaguar camp, because Dakota has caught up with Stefan Ortelli.
It's good so far. Yeah.
Now, Stefan, you were saying there's a lot of traffic yesterday, but you were feeling quite confident in the car. So how are you feeling this morning?
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to be here at Nurburgring. You know, it's a demanding track. You always have to attack, and the car are responding very well. We've been pushing hard. You know, 1 second off, there is not a big drama with that, you know, but in 1 second there is 23 cars. So it's always a matter of trying to gain the last tenth to be capable to be a bit higher on the grid, as we've been already earlier this year, like Silverstone or Monza. So we are counting on the qualifier. Doesn't look like that, but in any case, Vantor car is not that far in front of us. So we know there is good cars around us, and if we stay with the pre-qualify lap time, we can go high in a race and come back in the first hour, I'm sure.
Well, I know you're going to focus on your own race, so let's hope Q3 goes ahead for you, and good luck later for the race.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
That throws a question into the air. When you're choosing between your 3 drivers, who goes out in Q1, Q2 and Q3, you don't necessarily put your fastest qualifier in Q3. But then again, knowing it might have been foggy this morning, maybe some of the teams have done just that. But it's going to be really quick fire. Getting track position is going to be super difficult. But also, as the weather blows in and out, you could just be half a second faster on a lap because you've got more visibility. And that could come at any point in that session.
There are so many imponderables. And I mean, looking now as we sweep down through the pit lane on our Segway, looking directly across, the McLarens are more visible than they were 5 minutes ago. So we've still got just under literally 19 minutes and 7 seconds of this qualifying session available. Up to the race director. Now, normally you have to be able to see between the marshalling points to see the next one down before you'd release the car. So here is a view from our Segway, which is, it's spun in the pit lane. The Segway has spun in this.
He's crossed the white line. He's going to be in so much trouble.
Oh, for goodness sake. And he's going now the wrong way up the racetrack.
I think
we're going to have to take Mike Hawkins off this and send him home.
I think he's just disorientated. He's disorientated, but I'm sure he's doing exactly what the director asked him to do, as a good employee would do. But as you can see, before the session started, it was due to start, the visibility was better than we have now. We're looking back from the big grandstand down at turn 1. You can just see the white line in the track. That's the pit exit line, and that's not the best visibility we've had. In fact, we can see the cloud blowing past our commentary position. It's heading down the start-finish straight, but it's been quite blustery. Looking at them is a good thing, but they are blowing quite briskly now, effectively almost diagonally down the start-finish straight from the control tower.
It is actually quite a brisk wind that's blowing, and I mean it is more or less a tailwind.
You can see on those Blancpain, those tall banners, they are getting blown quite strongly.
I mean, if you've got all the help you need from the wind, but of course what the wind is doing is, while it's blowing it away, it's also blowing other weather in, and what you need is ambient temperature to rise to help burn this off. But we've been told from our meteorologists that there isn't going to be any direct sunlight. It's going to be a low cloud base pretty much throughout the day. That's a reasonably good wind, which you would expect to blow all this fog and whatever you want to call it clear of the racetrack. But at 2,000 feet, 600 odd meters, so
things are changing. We're just hearing that the cars are going to be allowed into Parc Fermé, and it's possible the whole qualifying we put back an hour. We're going to cut away now, and we'll come back on for streaming as soon as we know. We'll just keep an eye on the websites and on the streaming feed, and once we've got visibility, there will be qualifying. But the whole race program here at the Nurburgring on Sunday morning is being hampered, and we'll get more information for you about Q3 in just under 20 minutes. And there is a proof of the win. One of our cameramen, it's Shami with a beautiful sombrero. So we don't know when the restart will come, but just keep an eye on all the streams, and we'll see what we can bring you.
I mean, those guys on the camera position, they are the true heroes every broadcast.
So it looks as though qualifying for now has been stymied by the weather conditions here at the Nürburgring. They're lifting, they're falling, but generally they're still too foggy for the drivers to go out onto the circuit. Q1 and Q2 were cancelled. We'll give you news about Q3 as soon as we get it, but for now we're going to start cutting away from the Nürburgring and hope that all is fine for qualifying later on for the final round of the Endurance Cup, the 5th and final rounds. Don't forget, we've got 4 teams tilting for the overall honours, and they will be particularly nervous as they wait to find out what is happening with the 3rd and final qualifying session. It's goodbye for now. Welcome to Sunday morning, our second attempt to go for qualifying here at the Nurburgring. As you can see, weather conditions aren't brilliant, but they are in comparison to how they were at 8:30 when we hoped to go out the first time. The mist has been rising and falling almost by the second, John Watson, but right now we've just had engines fired up in the pit lane for the first time this morning. Humidity 99.6%. We're in a cloud.
Yeah, we're in the cloud, and right now, well, 2 minutes ago, we had virtual clear visibility across from the commentary booth down the pit lane, and then the process of getting everybody seat belted in, it's closing back in again, and I wonder, will they let it go? Because what was, well, they're going to let it go, but how long will this last?
Well, Q3, we've lost Q1 and Q2, so the drivers who were nominated for Q3, they hold the responsibility for their entire driver lineup in terms of getting a good qualifying position. But thank goodness for the 4 teams that can take a crack at the driver's title. Look how poor the visibility. That's very, very early in the lap, and it's almost impossible to see them. Of course, they have more visibility. That's a long camera shot. But had we had to revert with no qualifying to have the pre-qualifying positions guarantee the grid, we'd have had our 4 championship challengers 17th, 23rd, 28th and 34th position. That won't necessarily be the case, but the drivers in each of those cars have got to clear the traffic, see where they're going, and do it in under 14 minutes now. It's super, super tight, and if that doesn't keep the drivers on their toes and make them earn their corn, what will?
Well, I mean, this is as tough as you can get for anybody, but those that were onto the track who were down at the pit lane exit are the ones that are going to get the benefit. Those that were still filing out, as they were doing just as before we went on board with the Bentley number 8. So, I mean, they are at a disadvantage. Actually, track conditions, looking from the onboard shot of the number 8 Bentley, don't look that bad. And I would have said, if anybody's going to be brave enough, I wonder just how much grip there is all around. This is down at the lowest part of the track, down at the hairpin bend. So it's relatively clear there, but it's more important to me is that the tarmac looks like it may be, if somebody was really brave, they could have put a set of slicks on. Hard to tell just from that onboard shot as Andy Soucek, I think it is, behind the wheel. Maxime Soucek, we wait to see.
It's Soucek behind the
Andy
wheel.
Soucek. So he makes his way past the Ferrari. But I think there's probably a reasonable amount of grip on the racetrack, even though visibility isn't particularly there. You can see the view looking from turn 1 all the way up the pit lane. And 84 is the lead car, the car that was on track first. So it's the first car that will begin to do a flying lap, and we have to wait and see. And he runs very wide. When in fact, you can see there the track is too wet for slicks. But elsewhere, I think slicks you could probably get away with. So it's a real gamble. I mean, most people will have started on wets, I'm assuming.
Well, we're going to follow number 84 around the course of the lap, and you'll be able to see the highest points on the circuit, like the start-finish line, and the Bilstein curve is where the worst visibility is, as you would expect on a foggy day. You start dropping down the hill, that's out of turn 4. Going down the drop, you've got the left-hander, the right-hander, then the curved run down to the hairpin, and as we saw on that lap with Andy Soucek, that it's much, much clearer at the bottom. Pointing to the screen, John.
Yeah, just looking, Christopher Mies and Mark Bessang have both come back into the pits having done their out lap. Now, I wonder... Oh, and the Bentley, no. Oh, can't believe it. That's the 8 car.
The 8 car, Andy Soucek, and that is where, if that's turn 1...
That is turn 1, yes.
That's pretty close to where... slightly further around the corner from where Stephen Kane went in the number 7 car. And if you just dialed in for the first time this morning, the 7 car had to be replaced, a replacement car brought up from Barcelona, where it had been used on VIP runs, and an overnight build there.
And number 8 is one of the cars that is in contention
for the title.
And it's in the tyre barrier. It's not going anywhere. We've got a yellow flag at Q3 and a red flag. Let it go, but as a consequence of letting it go, everybody was absolutely under maximum pressure. Waved red and yellow flags indicating please respect. This is a red flag. It means you've got to slow down to literally 50 kilometers per hour. But that's not 50 kilometers per hour coming out of turn 1.
Certainly isn't. But let's say, you know, what the drivers have to do you had to have enough clarity in the air for the drivers to see where they're going, but you also have to have enough so they can see the marshal's flags, and that's always a point on a foggy day.
And I mean, what we've got is a strong wind here at Nurburgring, blowing through literally by the lap. You've got visibility to one part of the track. The next lap, it's reduced significantly. But because the number 8 Bentley has gone into the tyre barrier down at basically straight on into turn 1, and I wonder whether the Bentley, and I wondered when I said that 2 of the Audis, the Mies car and the Mark Bessing car, had gone out and come straight back, were they considering maybe changing to slicks? Because I think Part and Wolfgang Reib looking a bit pensive and wondering what this is going to do to his position, possibility of becoming the first back-to-back champion. But to go back to the tyre choice that teams would have made, I assume most people would have opted to go out on a set of wet weather tyres. Some that might have done on slicks. Now I just wonder, was the Bentley one of those that went out on slicks?
Well, we just commented about how it looked greasy on the outside line. The McLaren crew opposite us, Garage 59, they brought their McLarens in at the end of that outlap, so they've had a good, decent amount of time to get them ready to go out again. No wheels on their cars, waiting to find out.
Yeah,
the good news
right
is
front damage is superficial bodywork damage, but it's just time lost. It's more frustration. It's been so far a terrible weekend for Bentley, with the 7 car getting into the barriers almost at an identical place to the number 8, but albeit at a much higher rate and with much greater damage to the car. A replacement was brought to the circuit overnight, and Stephen Kane, who was behind the wheel when the car went off, he's available to drive, and he's probably been extremely well looked after by the Bentley team.
We just have to hope the number 8 can get going quickly, because with the message on screen, session will restart in short notice, and the key to that is that number 8 Bentley getting out of position.
But also,
so the car has been pulled clear. It's in a dangerous position, therefore now it's being removed from there. It will be able to go out and play when the session restarts, but it's got to get back to the pits.
It's got to get back to
over.
Got to get back to the pits.
Whole lap to do.
But if there's any damage to, and I suspect that the Bentley is on slicks. I'm not sure. I'm only second guessing by the way the car's swirling around under acceleration, and I just wonder, was that what caught out and Suchek coming down into turn 1 and scattering gravel left and right, sundry.
That's not for him though, it's for the others.
Yes.
Sharing it.
But also those that have come in under the red flag, how many of them are going to be deciding to stay with the tyre choice they went with?
Well, the clock has stopped.
Yes, but how many are maybe considering going back out on a set of slicks?
Well, we look across from our commentary position as Andy Suchek brings the luckily not very battered Bentley, just nerfed the tyre ball very lightly. Number 8, was it on slicks? We'll find out. What are the other crews fitting to their cars?
Those are
like a set of slicks.
Absolutely.
So the Audi number 1 going on slicks, very busy down there. Move that one out of the way. We look across from our commentary position at the McLarens. They're sitting 58 and 59 up on the jacks. No wheels proffered as yet. They want every second of weather gathering information they can get. Ombra Lamborghini accelerates down the pit lane towards the exit. A lot of people, as you can see, have already had that idea. There's a traffic jam.
It's Tokyo rush hour. Absolutely. I mean, it takes about 2 minutes, maybe longer, for the entire field to leave the pit lane. So wets are being removed and slicks are being installed. The danger is that at some parts of the track, the surface is wetter or certainly damper than others, but I think the predominance from those that we saw, those shots we saw on board from the Bentley number 8, that it looked to me like it would be a track that you could just about get away with on sticks. And assuming that they're able to run for the remaining whatever number of minutes, 11 minutes, just stay out, because you have more chance of the track coming to you than coming back in again and saying, oh, well, it's too marginal, I can't really handle it.
Now this is, okay, right away, we're going green, 11 minutes and 12 seconds remaining. But the key is how the track dries out, but also you've got to do the maths. How many laps can you fit in with this time? Is it better to gamble on 3 really strong laps, or wait, go right out and hope you can get a 4th one in? But certainly traffic is going to play a role, visibility slightly, but also how uniformly dry or not, as the case would be, the track will be.
Watch, I think it was maybe the 7 Bentley we saw coming down into turn 1, and again just barely squeaking around the outside of the corner. The McLarens having work carried on, and they're the team that are directly opposite from our commentary position.
They're finally getting wheels proffered and offered, and those are being put on, so they're going to have at least 1 lap fewer than the opposition. It may not really damage them too much in terms of their hopes, because it's going to be coming quicker and quicker as long as the cloud doesn't come back down. The 58 car, the championship challenger, has been released onto the pit lane. The 59 will follow. As you can see, the ISR Audis still sitting in the pit lane waiting to take their chance.
The driver who's going to be the biggest beneficiary of this, I would gamble, is going to be Lawrence Van Thor. He was the first driver out once this session got underway, followed by the 84 Mercedes. But Van Thor fastest sector 2. It doesn't really matter, this is only just an out lap, but he will hope that when he gets round to go on his first flying lap, he will have to contend with a lot of traffic, but he is hopefully, in his mind, best placed. There's the 85 Mercedes and the Aston Martin in the Pro-Am category behind.
Yeah, that's Johnny Adam aboard that. Sky SR Audi's about to get going. So a lot of drivers jockeying for position on the outlap, and that puts them at an element of risk because it means you're going off the slightly drier line to get around the outside. You can see the number 8 Bentley being tended to at the far end of the pit lane. And side by side, the number 3 Audi really tussling very hard indeed and had to back off, just trying to find track position. The first flying laps will come shortly, but as way of reference, 1 minute 55.022 was the fastest lap in the dry yesterday. Checking out that 8 Bentley in the pits. Luckily the damage looks relatively limited. It has to get back out again though if it's going to set a qualifying lap. Don't forget that's one of our 4 championship challenges, so the 8 Bentley crew has got to get out.
Yeah, this is the car with Will Stevens, Christopher Mies and Conor De Filippi behind it, so they... I mean, it's the, look, you can see this turn 1 is the trickiest corner, I would say, of the entire circuit right now. But once you get through that and you start getting onto the dry bits of racetrack, you're going to pick up grip very quickly indeed. So let's keep an eye on this 28.
Running in isolation of the rest. Christopher Mies and the
BMW
Italian
off down at the turn 1 again, getting caught out under brakes.
Stefano Colombo, but good news for everyone else, he's getting back on. Bad news, he will rejoin and scatter gravel on the exit of the corner.
One of the Nissans just about slows down, squeaks around the outside of turn 1 as well. That, I mean, the braking into turn 1 is the area where everybody will be absolutely, at most, not danger, but certainly caution, I should say.
Yeah, and in fact, when you talked about that, you see one car, the Nissan, right on the outside of the circuit, and I didn't see which of the Audis it was, creeping round tight to the apex. Very different approach to the corner.
Christopher Mies behind the wheel of the 28 Audi up the hill through the Schumacher S's.
He's got clear air. He's the only driver to have that opportunity.
I mean, this is manna from heaven for Christopher Mies, and that's the benefit of being out on track early, out on slicks. He managed to navigate around turn 1 without any issue. And he may only need this 1 flying lap, assuming that the track conditions don't dramatically change, to secure a pole position. He's had a great run all the way through. He's got 1 car ahead of him, but it's not going to come into play before he completes the lap.
He's up into the chicane on his own. He set the fastest middle sector of all of them, but he's the first one to do so. But Alex Buncombe starting to make a move, and the Nissan's coming good. 22 and 23, Walkinshaw and Buncombe, respectively. So the first pucker flying lap about to be set. It will be Christopher Mies. Can you pick him out through the murk? And that's a shot up the start-finish straight, showing just how much missed. A 2 minute 1.74, and then immediately Johnny Adam 2 minutes 1.991 in the 44 Aston Martin. And the 85 Mercedes right in the mix, but these times will go scrambling. That's Luciano Bacchetta is third fastest. Maxi Boog in the sister car, 4th fastest.
Yeah, I mean, every time somebody comes through, we're going to get a time pretty close on board with Alex Buncombe in the 23 Nissan. 1st and 2nd fastest sector times. Traffic ahead of him, and he's having to really carve his way through, trying to get, as is coming out of the final turn, with the 99 BMW directly ahead of him. So we might see the Nissan 23 go fastest overall. Yes, it does, 2:01.705.
So 0.035 of a second, nothing, but nothings can count for quite a lot. Could that be the pole position lap? But 6 minutes remaining. Chance to do it again, but again running too deep into turn 1.
Well, that's under braking into turn 1 is the bogey part of the racetrack.
And followed by the Conrad Lamborghini. So very, very tricky. We talked about it before, and he discovered it.
So for Alex Buncombe, this is going to be his, it's showing lap 4. So on his 5th lap, he hasn't done 5 laps in this session. That's the amalgamation of going out and then going back in again. As we look at the Bentley, you can't quite see, I think that was the number 8 Bentley. But down into turn 1 as the 58.
Well, a McLaren at the top of the timesheets.
Yes.
Andrew Watson.
Absolutely, that was the 59 McLaren. In fact, there's the, which is the, I can't quite see which of the 2 McLarens. Well, now, Robin Frains, and it's just changing by the car. Because
Christopher Mies ought to be going back to the top of the time charts. He was the first one to set 1 flying lap. He set the fastest opening sector of his 2nd flying lap. Personal best, and now Jeroen Mull goes to the top in a Lamborghini.
No, he doesn't.
No, well, he did.
It's a grasser now of Puccini, Stolz and Barretta.
So Stolz top of the time charts.
Yep.
but wait for the
but
completion.
Lamborghini first and second.
And Christopher Mies goes back on top again by small margin, 11 thousandths of a second. So 2 really good flying laps from Christopher Mies. He was the one that had the clear lap on his opening lap, got a bit of traffic on his second one, has worked it very well indeed. We're looking for pink times on our timing screen. That means fastest of all. Looking forward through the windscreen, the 99 BMW trying to pick its way, but that's been caught in traffic. It wasn't one of the cars that got out really early on.
He is yet to set a time, and he's getting caught in the worst possible place, coming up into the chicane with one of the Lamborghinis. No, I think that might be the Barwell car, and that's delaying any progress that they needed to get that car onto page 1 of the timing and scoring. As Johnny Adam in the Aston Martin, a Pro-Am car, he is now taking provisional pole by, 30 thousandths of a second.
Yeah, 41 thousandths covers the top 3. I think it's going to get tighter and tighter still, but just over 4 minutes on the clock, the hardest corner on the circuit being approached as we ride down with the 99 BMW.
It makes it into the
Nicky
17th position.
17th. How far off the ultimate pace? 2 and a bit seconds. That shows how good those top few laps are. Top 6 cars down to your own Mulls Lamborghini covered by the top 3/4 of a second. Then quite a few gaps. Yesterday we were dealing in hundredths of a second. Today in this mad scramble, just under 4 minutes to go in this qualifying session. Adds to the excitement, doesn't it? Bring it all to a compression.
Well, when you give a driver an hour and then you say, Lawrence Van Thor just got quickest.
Yeah, but Christopher Mies on his third flight lap, lowering the margin even more.
Yep.
Audis to the tops.
It's just
first, second and third.
Yep.
Fourth, I mean, without the Aston Martin splitting the 44 up in third place. 0-1 on the windscreen. That is Robin Frietz in the 2 Audi. Will he stay there? It's a very, very good opening sector to his lap. Christopher Mies is, his third flying lap. They've completed their second. He's on his third. And visibility down the bottom end of the circuit, that's the top end of the circuit, that's the final corner, is getting worse again. That's the foggiest part of the circuit.
Well, I mean, all I can say is...
goes top for Lamborghini. Christopher Mies fights back, but it's half a second clear now for Bortolotti. Quickest yesterday.
Stunning yesterday. Now, again, great time from the Italian in the 16 Lamborghini.
Bentley number 8 into the barriers, recovered up to third place. What a recovery for Andy Sucher. Exactly.
Will be the lead car in the championship battle. If it can retain that position, an awful lot can happen in the closing moments. And in fact, just seen 57 has moved up. That's Adam Christodoulou in the Black Falcon Mercedes. You've got Lamborghini Mercedes, provisional front row with 2.5 minutes remaining on board of the Bentley number 8, and right in the middle of traffic coming through. That's sort of turn 4, so that will not really help very much. Maxime Soule.
Well, I was just about to say that Suchek, but top of the charts in Pro-Am was Matt Griffin. He was 6th. He's suddenly gone down to 8th. And Marco Mappelli has gone top in the 78 crew, which is Barwell Motorsport Lamborghini. So that keeps on changing. Top in AM at the moment was in 40th position. Has just gone off our timing screens down to 41st and below. But it's Mirko Bortolotti, fastest in yesterday's pre-qualifying session. Fastest again now. And as you can see, conditions around the track, the visibility is lifting a bit. What can Andy Suchek do on this lap? He got up to third place. He's 6th at the moment, but he is setting fast sector times.
One of the AMs, Pro-Am,
it's the Ishikawa Bontempelli Beretta Ferrari. Olivier Beretta, driver of many moods of experience, but
that down at turn 1, I think it is. Yes, it is turn 1. Again, getting caught out, no doubt under braking, just not having enough grip. And again, looking up at the top of the circuit. This is coming into the final corner onto the start-finish straight. Visibility at that part of the track poor, but overall workable. 19.
Lamborghini's first and second, and as I say that, the number because Lucas Stoltz went top. Christopher Mies back into second. Alessandro Pierghini, the 50 Ferrari, into third. Mirko Bortolotti, he was first, and now he's nearly a second down on that pace.
1 minute to go, and there's a red flag.
Red flag, 1 minute to go. Gentlemen, you had 14 and a half minutes. You now have 13 and a half minutes.
That means qualifying is over.
You cannot do a lap. So, drivers obviously are able to complete this lap, but it's number 19, Lucas Stoltz, Lamborghini on the pole position. Christopher Mies, the first driver out of the pits of that 28 Audi. Really strong job. 3 very quick flying laps. His last one put him second.
But critically, leading car in the top 3 that can second row of the grid. And the Bentley number 8 down on the 6th row of the grid. So Maxi Book has worked the oracle to get that car, which never has shown really strongly at any point on the second row of the grid as the leading contender of the 4 within the Enduro Championship.
Well, for championship leader, the 58 Ferrari McLaren crew, their cars are 21st and 22nd, 2.4 seconds off the ultimate pace. Really, really quick fire. But for 2 days running now, the Lamborghini's come good when it counted, and the 19 crew, not the more favoured 16 crew, is top. The 16 car is 5th on the grid, so huge jubilation down in the Grasser Racing team area.
Andrea Pacini, Lucas Stolz and Michele Barretta. So, I mean, you couldn't have a more passionate or emotional driver lineup to be on pole position. And Christopher Mies in the 28, the car that I thought maybe, and look at the face, Baz Linder's face. If you ever saw Thunder is not a visual.
It is now.
Well, that's Baz's face. I mean, not his fault. Nothing to do with it, but just clearly, I mean, he wanted to win this championship.
He certainly did. His cars were not the first ones out. They got traffic, and it caught them out. They just couldn't get a clear run. But circumstances so difficult, which is why it's all the more remarkable that the Grasser Racing team has got its cars 1st and 5th. And there is the sister car, the 59 McLaren. That's not the championship challenger. Don't forget, early in the session, we had Andrew Watson in the 59 car up in 2nd position. But the lap times are coming down and down and down. A really short, compressed Q3. And that is it for qualifying. And so it's Lamborghini on top, the 28 Audi, Christopher Mies, great job from him. Ferrari in 3rd place, Alessandro Pierguidi, and then that really crucial lap from Maxi Booth.
Yes.
Top of the championship challenges.
That is a key lap of the season, I would say, for Max Booth.
So look at the variety of cars up at the top end, but of our championship challenges, the best place, the HTP crew in 4th position. 7/10 off pole, but it matters not. They're just 3 positions away from the very front part of the grid. And for the other challenges, we look to the next one, the 8 crew, the Bentley crew, down in 11th on the grid. And then very sadly, for McLaren, the championship leaders, they are down in 21st place. Very, very tough conditions. And the 99 BMW have to go scrambling down the screens to find Nicky Katzberg, ended up 39th. They were in the championship mix. Is that the death knell of their opportunity? Certainly, that is not a dream in a 54-car grid to be starting 39th. It's very much advantage swinging the way of HTP Mercedes and the 84 crew.
Yeah, the 21 car, or the 58 car is 21st, 11th row of the grid. I mean, how much work are you going to have to do? How creative is Baz Landers going to have to be with strategy?
Matt Griffin, 6th place overall, top in Pro-Am, 25th place, top in Am. It's the Man Guedes Mastronardi Ferrari. Popped that in when it counted, and they're a good 20 positions or so clear of the rest in class. So that certainly goes their way, but very, very tricky conditions at the Nurburgring. And it's not bright here yet, but certainly the cloud is now finally lifted. Not lifted, after this delayed qualifying session. We lost Q1, we lost Q2, Q3 was delayed, and then it came. It was so quick fire, we could hardly pick out the people working their way towards the front of the grid. And look at that spread of time, 15 seconds down to the slowest of the runners, the ARC Bratislava Lamborghini. But it was just so many cars on track, almost all on slicks, almost Lamborghini crew. Lucas Stolz, job very, very well done. So a hard-earned pole position.
Absolutely. I mean, these are conditions where you have to say this is where your professional driver or your 3 professional drivers earn their crust. And but of course they're the ones that are pushing probably harder than all. And if there's going to be a problem, it's going to occur with them. But Rob Bell explaining to his team, I mean 21st, I think it is for 21st for the 58 car. But look at the delight. I mean, absolute joy from the Grasser Racing team. The Lamborghini Huracan, we've seen the 16-car Mirko Bortolotti being absolutely dominant. But in these conditions, right place, right time, catching the flag before the red flag went out and getting that provisional pole position by just over 0.2 of a second.
And just to point out, we talked beforehand about the 91 Zach Speed Mercedes. That ended up down in 18th place, but on its in-lap, it set the fastest first sector rule. So it's a question of what it could be. Highlights coming up, well, they're here right now. Quite hard to... The only lights you can see are the lights of the cars as they come out of the pit lane. They went out with 15 minutes to go out and play, and it wasn't a case of play, it was a case of not mucking up. And the 84 Mercedes picked its way around the dry lower part of the circuit. Visibility did improve, John Watson, but getting down to turn 1 was easy. Getting through turn 1 was not. The 18...
No, indeed, just getting caught out. Wet entry into turn 1 on slick tyres. Both going right, not looking very happy indeed.
Brief red flag, and the first car out of the pit lane was the 28 Audi, Christopher Mies. He had clear track ahead of him, and he really made it work. He kept going to the top of the timesheets, but lap after lap, people were in problem. The 15 BMW, Stefano Colombo, getting it wrong at turn 1, but Christopher Mies, another quickest lap. He'd been top of the time charts, knocked off, back to the top again with his next flying lap. He was at the front of the queue and was really making it work for him. Getting track position, super difficult. Wonderful shots, and as you can see, the visibility, that was the best it's been all morning. Nissan right in the mix, but down to turn 1, running out of room.
Yes, Alex Bunkerman would end up in that session 11th overall. The sister car, I don't know what happened, back in 42nd place.
One of the Audis, the Ferraris down into the gravel, that was 53, and that brought out the red flag, and that meant the session was over. But the fastest car at that point was the 19 Lamborghini, Luca Stoltz, grabbing pole from out of the cloud. They loved it.